Cap, I don't know. It's one of those Fridays. You're sitting there and you're trying to figure out, okay, because I've got like a bunch of drops and a bunch of things that are attached to like show segment opens and things like that. And they've got a bunch of sound effects and everything. And it's like, okay, where's my open? Oh, yeah, it's all the way at the top. It's not down at the bottom where, you're trying to sit there and, come up with things that are like, let's just to give you an idea as to what I've got here. And I know you're sitting there going, what is he talking about? Stuff like that. That's there when it's appropriate, but that's at the bottom of the scale. And I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Those kinds of things.
Well, feel free to play any type of music when I come on, John. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, it needs to be the right kind of music. I mean, if you're playing the right kind of football. Little American, little Atlanta rhythm section for you in the morning, just whatever applies. But no, the drop for the show opens is in an entirely different place, and I've got to sit there and go, oh crap, where is it?
Tough gig, John. Somebody's got to do it, though.
Yes, exactly. If you had walkout music, what would it be? Like everybody's got the walk-up music, in baseball and everything like that. If you had your walk-up music, what would it be?
That's a great question because I've never been a huge music person. I've been to maybe 2 concerts in my life.
Seriously? What?
Yeah. And they asked me what they wanted me for a walk-up or a walk-out song when I did the Golden Spike. And I was like, I had to ask my kids. I was like, guys, what do I say here? So I don't know, John. Not 100% sure, honestly.
You've only been to 2 concerts in your entire life, maybe?
Yeah, I think. Well, actually, I went to one in Atlanta. That was the best one I've ever been to. It was, oh God.
One of the best concerts. No, was it? Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, it'll come to me. He's a legend. Golly. Elton John.
Okay. All right. I've heard of him. I have heard of this Reginald Dwight person. I know of whom you speak. Yes.
Good morning, Abby. Good morning, Del.
Del is somewhat basking still in the glow of the Rhode Island and Charleston matchup, and then he gets flipped around with what happens in the Open Cup. When it comes to these kinds of competitions, how are you about outside competitions outside of the purview of the actual season? How are you about winning other trophies during a school year?
Yeah, I'm torn about it, John, to be completely honest. For me, when we were playing Open Cup and even Leagues Cup and stuff like that, Open Cup's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Because Leagues Cup, it was like, man, if you don't go 100%, you could get really embarrassed here.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want that to occur. Open Cup, for me, I did not love playing in the early rounds of these games because for me, it felt like a no-win as a defender.
Yeah.
You go out there and you shut out Charleston, and it's like, well, you're supposed to shut out Charleston. Well, it's not that easy. And if you give up a goal, you look like, hey, what the heck? You can't shut out somebody in the lower division, So, and these games are always way tougher than you think. And so I didn't love it, honestly. Obviously when you get later in the rounds, it's more exciting. But the early round games, and I rarely got to sit, I feel like. So
you rarely got to sit in the early rounds of Open Cup games?
Yeah, I remember playing a bunch of them. And the biggest pet peeve I have with Open Cup, and I've said it for 10 years plus, okay. I do not understand why the early rounds don't go straight to penalty kicks. There's no reason to play an extra 30 minutes on a midweek day. It's usually hot. Like, if it can't get settled in 90, just go to penalties. I don't understand it.
I get it completely from a player standpoint because you're already in the rhythm of the season and you're having to duck out, play an Open Cup game against a lower division opponent, no offense. and it's like I'm busy, man.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it benefits the lower side teams anyways, right? Like, hey, let's go. You held an MLS team, over 90 minutes. Then hey, get your shot at penalty kicks. Like they've got weekend games too. Their travel's tougher than MLS now that there's charters for MLS teams. Like, let's just get to it here. That I'll never understand that until they change it.
So when it comes to being an MLS athlete, having to deal with Open Cup, how much of a pain in the what is it having to budget your time in the first place and make sure that you're as healthy and can be called on and all these kinds of things? How difficult is that to navigate in season with all of the responsibilities that are there with the first team and the first division, and then having to sit there and figure out, oh crap, I've got a midweek game? How difficult is that to manage?
For some guys, a little bit more than others, and I think it just comes down to motivation and mentality, right? Some guys, it's like, hey, I got another game. It doesn't matter who I'm playing against. I'm going to go there and do my thing, and it doesn't matter if it's Miami MLS team or Miami USL team. Like, I'm just going to go play my game, and I have to show up and play, and so I'm going to do that. And for other guys, it's more challenging than that, and age comes into it a little bit, and it's a good opportunity for younger guys for sure to get opportunities to play, and so there's a huge benefit to Open Cup. I'm not saying MLS teams shouldn't participate, because I think they should,
right?
But yeah, there's definitely a wide range of outlooks towards those tournaments. But when you get to like where it is now, you say, hey, let's go win the thing.
When it comes to, and the reason I ask managing your time and trying to stay as physically fit as possible, when you have discussions with your mentees, how do you discuss making sure that they are as sharp as possible, that they're not overextending, that they're making sure that priorities are in a certain direction, understanding that priorities may widen over a period of time? Do you have these kinds of discussions about priorities and making sure that you've got your head screwed on straight with your mentees?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big one. And I think that there's a couple little things there. One, I think that we always say that if you're not looking forward to going to practice, you're not looking forward to going to a game, like that's when you know that you need a break, because it's got to be the highlight of the day. And if it's not, then hey, maybe you need a small break, or make sure that you're taking every break possible to get away from it, because that's what cures it usually. Getting away, and you realize how much you miss it, and you can't wait to get back out there, even if it's a day or two. And then I think that I just lost my train of thought. There was getting away from the game.
Making sure that mentees understand that if you're getting to that point to where it turns into just a dredge, if your mentees are just kind of over it, stepping away for a day or two, if practice is part of the joy of it, that if you're really hitting a wall, stepping away for a day or two can help you with that process going forward to regain your love and admiration for what you're out there for.
Yeah, and that's it. It comes down to love, right? If you're not loving it, then hey, something's wrong here, and it needs to be addressed. And sometimes it's time away, and I think that that's really tough for athletes to understand sometimes, right? How am I going to get better? How am I going to get out of a rut? How am I going to love it more if I get away from it? That's why I'll never understand why fans give guys a hard time sometimes for not practicing every day, not doing this all the time. It's like, well, sometimes you take a step back to take 2 steps forward. It's important.
When did you take a step back to 2 forward? When did you understand that was an important thing for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm not 100% sure I remember a specific moment.
Yeah.
But I do know that when I was allotted time off, right, where it was like 4 days during the season, because there's always one, you've got an off weekend, or there's a break for a tournament or whatever it is. And if they're going to give you 4 days, then hey, I'm going to take my 4 days and I'm not going to touch a soccer ball, and I might not even watch a soccer game. I might go for a run or two in those 4 days, but other than that, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm not going to feel bad about it either, because I'm not going to lose much in 4 days, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be rearing to go and fresh. And I think that that's important in the long run. I think that's why these built-in little weekends off or few days off that you can get from a coach, that's why an off day per week is so important. It's not just physically, it's mentally too. And especially the older you get, the younger athletes, they can have endless energy sometimes, which is great. But for those that do need that mental break, I think that becomes really important.
Like playing a round of golf, as you've been known to do these days. But then let me ask you this. When it comes to your experience in and around younger professional athletes or mentees, is there a fear of being further behind if they take that time off, especially early in a career or early in a sport? Because, like if I take time off, then somebody's advancing that much further ahead of me than I would if I'm not taking the day off. And then you get into that vicious cycle. Is there that pressure? Do you notice that pressure there to try and stay, with the Joneses or whatever with the younger players?
Yeah, for sure. And there's such a balance, John, with what your situation is. I guess I'm just looking at it as a pro.
Yeah.
I was playing all the games right away. And so, there were guys my age when we got days off, they wanted to go out and do stuff because they weren't having the opportunities that I had. They weren't as physically and mentally spent because I was, being counted on from the get-go, and they weren't, right? So they wanted to continue to improve and get better on these days off and push things where I was okay saying, no, I need a day. I'm good. So it's really situationally dependent because like you hear stories of guys like Ronaldo who rarely take a day off, right? Always pushing, always there. He's a rare example, sort of like Tiger Woods back in his heyday. Mm-hmm. Those are rarities. But I do think that, if you're a younger athlete trying to break through, right? If you haven't gotten to that point where you're mentally and physically drained, then yeah, it's okay to keep pushing and pushing. Because yeah, you do need to get some extra time that some other guys don't need in that moment.
And you find your limits, I would imagine. It's like if you thought that you'd pushed yourself to 100% and you still think that there's something there, you can push through that gap that exists, that line that exists. And it's like, oh, okay, I can tolerate more. I can push myself that much further. I can push myself past this point and this point and this point to find out what 100% really is, as opposed to what you thought it was leading into that, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that 100% is ever changing, depending on the day, the situation, what's going on, right? Your body's capable of a lot more than you think sometimes. And, we need to push it sometimes to see what it is capable of.
When you were a pro, was there a 125th minute adventure where you're like, oh, okay, I had more in me than I thought, where you were forced to challenge yourself and you pushed through it and you realized more about yourself and what you had in you than you thought you had previously? Was there a first time for that, or was that something you're like, oh, okay, I can handle this?
Yeah, I think that I was asked to play a D mid for a game with the Revolution, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be a lot more running. I'm not sure I can handle that. And I was able to obviously do it and get through it and everything. And I think I came out of that thinking like, hey, you know what, I can do that. When I played outside back in Denmark, that was a change for me where it was like, okay, there's a lot different fitness out here. There's a lot more. I'm going to have to be pushed a lot harder. And I thought I was relatively fit. I've never been the fittest guy on any team. But yeah, I needed to push myself a lot more when I was at outside back and realize, okay, I can get to another level fitness wise.
Do your mentees, have you been in a moment with a mentee where a mentee has pushed themselves past that limit and understood the new limit and what it's like to come out the other side? Or are they still trying to learn what that limit is and haven't had those moments yet?
I haven't yet. And I do talk about fitness a lot I bring it up every time with every mentee, because I think in general, players are not as fit as they need to be.
Huh.
I think that and that's one thing that we can control, and it's one thing that it can be a real advantage out there. So but every kid thinks they're fit. So,
so do some adults.
Yeah, well, not this guy.
Not me either, brother. I know I'm not. You mentioned fitness. Is that one of the? It seems like to me it's one of the major things for someone who is not the athlete like you, the professional athlete. I just stuck mics in your faces, and I was nowhere close to being the professional athlete and conditioning that you were in. When it comes to your mentees and teenagers and those of generations that are younger, what is their stance on fitness? Do they understand that it's something that they've got to get through, and they understand it's part of the gig? Do they look forward to challenging themselves and being as fit as possible? Is it a dredge? Do they care? Do they want to throw it in the garbage and not want to think about it, and they just go out there and do it? How do they view fitness as a part of the full picture?
I think most of the ones that I've had conversations about just view it like either one, they're pretty naturally fit, and don't mind it.
Wait till they hit 30.
Yeah, wait till they hit 20. Mm-hmm. Or they do it because they know they have to. There's very few who actually enjoy fitness and don't mind doing it and all that. And that's fine. I didn't enjoy it. And like I said, I was not a fitness guru, and it wasn't one of my strengths. But I do feel like it can be a strength. And when it is, it's really valuable, especially for different positions you play. As a center back, it wasn't hugely important, right? But as a D mid or a winger, a number 10, an outside back, right? You watch Brooks Lennon play, and it's like this guy's just sprinting around for fun. And it's an asset, and he's not getting tired in the 70th minute, things like that. It's impressive, and it's something that's totally within our control.
So you mentioned that when it comes to fitness and all of that, what about being mentally fit and emotionally fit? Because we can all sit here and be, as physically fit as humanly possible. We could be Brooks or Bartosz Slisz or Saba and run 7 or 8 miles and do that in a match day and then do that again the next match day. But what about the idea of being just as fit mentally and having the 3-dimensional thought processes about everything going on around you and understanding the game and understanding where you need to be? And then obviously emotional fitness as well, and not making your emotions take over for you in situations like that. What about those other kinds of fitness, not just the running part?
Yeah, it's equally as important, right? And it can be an asset, and it can help you with the energy wise. I talk about the roller coaster of emotions and how to try and find that even keel, right? With small mini roller coasters. You want to ride the kitty roller coasters. You don't want to ride the big boy roller coasters of emotions, that is. And if we're able to do that, it keeps us so much calmer in the head, especially within a game, but even game to game as well. That's where I felt like I did most of my work, John. That way I could do less of the physical running part. I was, in my brain, I was doing a lot so that I could cut down on the things I had to do with my feet.
Well, I mean, because I would think that it's almost like defensive driving, for lack of a better phrase. Because if we're out there driving in a car and we're out there thinking like everyone else around us, we're not going to get into that car crash. And we understand, okay, dude's not using his blinker. He's going to come over here in this lane and anticipate that. Same thing I would imagine when you're out there as an athlete. If you can treat it almost like defensive driving and anticipate and think, okay, if, my teammate to my right is going to step forward, I've got to stay back. If they know that I can go forward, they've got to be back. You've got to think for yourself and everyone else. And that takes time, I would think, to get to where you're comfortable in your athletic defensive driving, for lack of a better phrase.
For sure. And a lot of that comes with experience and reading the game and being in these situations. And that's one of the things that Greg and I are going to be trying to teach through this video library, is like pointing these things out so that, they can get this understanding of this knowledge of like these little things that happen throughout every game and every play. And they're so small that they sometimes go unnoticed, but these small little differences are the big difference between creating a chance and not creating a chance, or giving up a chance and not, and little things like that. And that's what I made a career off of. Like a lot of my stuff just, didn't, obviously I made the play because I was in the right spot. Well, I was only in the right spot because I read it and I saw that play 1,000 times and I knew what was going to happen. And so that's why I made it look easy. But then I watch other guys and I'm like, how do they not see it? Like, what are they looking at? Right. These things. And so, yeah, that's what we're trying to do with this video library, of like point out these little things that guys do on the field and why it's important.
Yeah, I remember a play in particular that where you came in from behind and there was a slide tackle that created an opportunity, that created a short field for a particular goal, where you ended up winning a championship by the end of the 90 minutes. I remember that kind of anticipation. Video library. I'm glad you brought that up. How deep are we talking about here? When you're trying to assemble something like this, what are you trying to do? Is it snippets by category? Is it situations with events that folks know? When you're trying to approach putting this together, what's going into the thought process here?
Yeah, and we're trying to figure that out. And I think right now we're leaning in towards the snippets. So like minute and a half clip of a certain play, voiced over with, okay, this is what's happening, this is what we see, this is what's going on. And so it's filterable, right? You go in there and you say, hey, I'm an outside back. I want to see offensive clips, or I want to see defensive clips, and I want to see how to make a cross or deal with a cross, or, I want to see striker runs or things like that. And then there's just a library of, these types of things. So that's kind of the thought. And then progress it from there, where it's like, okay, here's multiple clips together, and here, see the difference between these two situations that are very similar.
Yeah. So I would think that while it sounds fun, because you can sit there and literally lay out by situation and situation. It's like, okay, trying to close out a match, 20 minutes to go. You've got this, trying to sit there and establish your situation in the first quarter pole, those kinds of things. I would imagine that when you're trying to piece this together, it's like you'll go down a road, then you'll sit there and you'll open up how about this? And you go over here, and then you open up all of these different things. I imagine it's fun to piece it together, but then you sit there and you go, man, we really did open up a bunch of different doors and piecing this thing together.
Yeah. We'll get to that point for sure. Because right now I'm just, every game that I watch, it's like, I just try and clip a few different things from each game and little moments and things. And so, and it's really nice because Apple TV, you can actually screen record versus, if you're watching something on YouTube TV, they've got the technology where if you go to screen record, your screen goes black.
Yeah.
Smart people.
Yes. Smart people.
But Apple doesn't seem to care. So that allows us to screen record things from MLS games, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that we, want to violate any copyrights or anything like that, or get in any kind of trouble. No.
Nah, we're not doing that.
Okay. A couple of more minutes with you. Questions from the peoples, because they have questions. Abby wants to know if your kids are out of school yet.
Yes, they are. Wednesday was the last day.
And I just have this Thursday morning. I imagine it's just like the noise stomping through the house at an incredibly early hour. They're used to getting up and getting out the door and hitting the bus or getting into the car and going to school. But all it is stomping around the house now. And you're sitting there going, oh, man.
I, as the nice father I am, signed my daughter up for 8 a.m. physical therapy on Thursday morning. So, yes, her first day of summer vacation, she was up at 7 to get to PT, and she was thrilled about
it. Thoughts on Open Cup and the lack of first-team participants?
First-team participants meaning like players on the first team playing?
Yeah, the players on the first team and the current setup, the way that things are with Open Cup, where roster or managers will sit there and they'll put a lot of second-teamers in as opposed to having first-teamers in a midweek match.
I have no problem with it. I think that just because they do that doesn't mean that we don't care to win the game. Right. Yeah. I think we're looking at it like, hey, these guys should be good enough to go win this game. Otherwise, why are they on an MLS team? Why are they on an MLS contract? So, like I said, those opportunities are important. You have to get experience, because it's difficult, take a guy like Morales or Cobb, right? These guys, they can't get first team experience. You can't just throw them in an MLS game without any experience. Like, it's really, really tough. That's where these Open Cup games become so valuable for younger players, especially. And they need to figure it out, and they need to do it quick because they need to know that, hey, there's a level and there's an expectation. I don't care if it's 10 guys that aren't normally the first team players or what. They still need to win the game.
Okay, and then Abby takes it to the next stage. What if you just put in your second teams putting in their second teams as a whole and not a mix of first and just putting in their second teams on the whole, if you just went ahead and did that?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like New York City right now has got and it's weird this year because there's MLS Next Pro teams.
Right.
I don't like that. You can put in your New York City team and have a couple guys that's within your first team and, bring up some guys and have a mixture and things. But I don't think it should be MLS Next Pro teams.
And Abby asking, you want PKs until you get to the quarters, or when would you go?
I'd go semis, honestly. Okay. I'd go to semis. Semis, okay, you can play an extra 30, but up until then.
Because of schedule compression and 9 matches in 30 days if you're Atlanta United, or 6 in 21 that you're going to have in July leading into Leagues Cup. That's no bueno.
Yeah, exactly.
Last question, and this goes to the mogul. Dell, by the way, loves your lid, as you should, because the lid that you're sporting, that is strong. What did you think?
I got some new ones, I heard, so I got to get my hands on something.
You got new ones? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ben Olsen's comments about the gap between MLS and USL, and what is the opinion? And this was after the keeper-on-keeper crime that happened when they lost like 10-9 in the shootout to Detroit City.
Mm-hmm.
And Olsen, and I got the quote, Ben Olsen goes, yeah, it's a second division, and it's not even close. As you go through these tournaments, you mix up the team a little bit, and that can be the difference. That can end up equalizing games. There's no excuse. It was just a tough night, and the way we gave up 3 goals wasn't good enough. Really gutsy performance. We got knocked out of the Open Cup. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I thought they were terrible comments. I think that everyone knows there's a gap between MLS and USL.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be said. And that doesn't mean that USL championship teams can't beat MLS teams, because anybody can beat anybody on any given day.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen, no doubt about it. It's especially strange to say that after you just lost to one. So I think that he was just bitter and upset, and I didn't like the comments at all, because it didn't need to be said, and it's like even though there's a gap, I'll tell you, there's plenty of guys that I've seen in championship that could be on MLS rosters.
Mm-hmm. You go to Sacramento, you go to Charleston, you got 2 teams right now that have a 0 in that loss column as they've played 10 or 11 matches so far this season. And Sacramento right now, everything in the West and Open Cup goes through Hard Health Park, and they have really built really well in Sacramento, and there are a lot of guys that could be in Major League Soccer if that was the path that they were open to.
Yep.
All right, so we've gone overtime because the fourth is holding up the light board. What do folks need to know about Rhode Island FC, the new gear, anything else? Beyond Goals, hit me.
Beyond Goals, been quiet right now, just working on things in the back end for future. And then Rhode Island FC, we have a big one against Louisville tomorrow, 4:00 game, so afternoon. So I'll be able to watch at Atlanta United in the evening. I got Rhode Island in the afternoon. I got a Little League baseball game, so I got to be busy. But it'll be a fun weekend.
No doubt about it. And it's always great to have you and Greg on, where we can let everybody know what's going on with Beyond Goals and get your thoughts about being a mentor and the state of the game and everything that's attached to it. Go spend the rest of your Friday, because I know your weekend's full. Thanks for coming on as always.
Appreciate it, John. Everybody have a great weekend.